Welcome back, everybody, to another week. Episode 23, Know Your Customer. This is the Customer Success Show. I am your CS Valentine today, and we have another amazing panel. We have Cassandra, Dana, and Jenny joining us today. And before we get into some intros, let's just do the Success Panda housekeeping. So one is Dana recently signed up to become a pro member, so we shout out her podcast that becomes a shout out on the show. So she says right there, founder of Rebels of SaaS podcast. So check that out. She might have an unfortunate looking man who resembles me coming on her podcast or deploying one day. But besides that, it was fun doing that. I'm sure I look forward to seeing it come through. So for those who don't know, we started up a group coaching program that's going on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. If you want to join us, for all job seekers, it's a lot of fun. Everyone says it's the best. It's the best. Everyone agrees. And everybody, it's just head over to successpanda.io, create an account for a Cub or Panda membership, and you will get an invite. So without further ado, let's do some intros here. So on my screen, I show Jenny, Dana, and then Cassandra. So let's do some intros in that order.
Yeah, it would be me. Hi, I'm Jenny Calvert. I spent my career in both customer success, account management, anything customer facing, really. Recently transitioned over into coaching, so helping mid to senior level professionals, especially in moments and experiences of transition. I also do collaborate with various founders on their CS initiatives, so I like to stay really close to the community, hanging out, can't get far away because we are absolutely the best. So that's me. I'm in Tampa, Florida. I've got 2 kids, and I love all things customer. So I am super pumped for this topic today.
Cool. Thanks, Jenny.
You're welcome.
You're up, Dana.
Thank you, Brad. I'm Dana Vaughn. I've spent about 12 years growing, scaling, and building customer success tech, people, and process. I'm absolutely a nerd for success. The people here on this panel know that, Brad especially. And when I'm not doing that, I do, as Brad mentioned, have a podcast, Rebels of SaaS, where I bring on positive disruption across B2B SaaS and just really try to take part in the community, advocate, all those things. And most recently have been enjoying time at Silverline Solutions, helping them to build out their customer success motion. So all good stuff. And I'm in Eastern North Carolina, love vinegar-based barbecue, don't kill me, and I'm a Lego fan.
Nice.
Ooh, I like the Legos. Nice tip. We'll have to talk about that more. I'm Cassandra McLaren. I grew up in my career in animal health, sales, and account management, and then transitioned over to customer success and B2B SaaS. And now I have the opportunity as a fractional customer success leader to help small, medium-sized businesses and healthcare and med tech and life sciences and animal health still really build out their customer success vision, level up their teams to become strategically proactive, trusted advisors and revenue drivers. I love the coaching aspect of that and coaching up teams. And then on the personal side, I am at the point in my life where all of my time gets to be spent watching my kiddos play sports, and I love it. We've got 6 different teams going on right now in this house, and it's fun, and it's where I want to be. So I spend my time on the sidelines of the volleyball court, the basketball court, the football field, and most often baseball.
Nice. Do you have 6 kids, or is that one-to-many relationship going?
That's a one-to-many. 4 kids,
okay.
3 that are sports age.
There you go. All right, there you go. Yeah, so let me ask Mel. Mel, do we have any glasses in stock that are as cool as Cassandra's? Did we prep any of that? Okay. She said no.
I'm hoping thing. I've got go big or go home, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. No, look, they're awesome. Which is funny because you bring up the sports thing. It made me think of when I was my senior year in high school. I was playing soccer, and my mom was like still one of those where she comes to every game and all that stuff. So she's sitting in the stands, and it's like one of those lull in the game, so there's no sound anywhere. And I had just, I don't know, kicked the ball out or done something bad, but I just hear my mom over there, "Come on, Bradley, kick the ball." And I just turned to her, 'cause I'm about 40 yards away. I was on that side of the field. I said, "Just be quiet, Mom. You're embarrassing me." So yeah, it was the mom's. And then coaching soccer has been fun. Haven't had to wrestle a parent yet, but I look forward to that in my coaching career.
What age
So
are you?
cool. Go ahead.
What age are you coaching?
6 and 7 depends, and then my older kids, like 11 and 12, want me to coach them too. So I prefer coaching older kids because the little kids, it's like, hey, kick. I told my daughter Mariah, I said, Mariah, I give you $1 if you score today. This was her first game. She was taking a goal kick, and so for those who don't know, that's kicking the ball off. She turned around. There's no goalie, and she kicked it in her own goal. And then she looked at me and went. I was like, I'm like, oh my gosh, she is amazing.
Yep, that's
So,
strategic.
yeah, she didn't say which goal, so she's dangerous. So I look forward to working with her one day. So that'll be fun. All right, we're talking about know your customer. So this is when Mel and I were coming up with the topics. We're like, you know what, this one is this is going to be appropriate. Like, this is all about relationships and getting to know people. Let's make this on Valentine's Day. So here we are, Valentine's Day, know your customer. Let's just go around quickly. When you hear KYC or know your customer, what does that mean to each one of you? And you can couch that in the context of how you work or where you've been. Let's just start very, very high level here, and then we'll ask some more. So we'll go again, kind of Jenny, Dana, and then Cassandra, and then free flow after that. So what does that mean to you, Jenny?
Yeah, I think at the highest level, it's thinking about knowing them as an individual, knowing them as an employee, so like how they fit and sit and influence within the organization, and then the organization itself, right? So I think of it in like 3 different layers at the highest. We're at 50,000 foot now level.
Yeah, and I love that. And that's a really awesome approach, Jenny. You know, I think I would just add being able to say the hard things. You know, I think that if you can say the hard stuff and drag the proverbial elephant from, you know, the corner of the room, then you've accomplished the KYC. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with you both. And I think it's means to really know the so what for them. And Jay, like you were saying, the so what for the individual and so what for the client as a whole, and then their piece within it. And I feel like when you can dial down to what's important to the person that we're interacting with, that's when you really know the client.
Nice. Yeah. So Andy says hi. The panel and those glasses. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna get glasses comments.
The glasses win the day for sure.
Yeah. So we got some people just wanted to say hi. Oh, my new friend Gant from Cincinnati. I just met him the other day. So got some. If you do have questions, put them in the chat. If it's a good question, we'll read it. If it's not, we won't. But so make sure you only send your good questions. But
it's Valentine's Day, Brad. We have to spread the love.
I know there's no equivalent for Grinch on Valentine's Day, so like my heart is 3 sizes smaller. But no, I mean, it is Valentine's Day. We'll spread the love. We brought the comments up. So know your customer for me. So raise your hand on the panel if you knew that I spoke about jobs theory yesterday on the Milo podcast. No one? Okay, kinda. All right.
No, but I'm gonna head to listen.
No gold stars for you. All right. No, but the reason I bring that up is because a point that I made on there that I think is important for like KYC is when it comes to jobs theory, you're trying to understand why do customers hire your product? And I think a lot of times through the power of observation, like if we're only watching them or we're watching the data come in, we like to be, oh, they're using this, this, and this. So we infer that they're happy or like we don't know their motivations as to what are you trying to accomplish, right? So having the context behind the data is super super insightful, because whenever we make inferences, we could possibly be off without actually having to know your customer, which is, from a customer success standpoint, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish with our tool? Because what we could find is they're using the tool to do some use case or some job that is completely off our radar. And then that would put a feather in your hat if you found that out and took it back to your executive team. So follow-up question is, so with customer success, how do, let's say that we're all leading a CS team, okay? And this is a principle of know your customer that you're familiar with. How are you going to, say, coach new people, people who may not have heard about this? What's the actual blocking and tackling that you've used in the past, or you read about, or you think about, to getting to know your customer? Like, is there a program for it? Is there a playbook? So KYC, is there a way to do it, or is it just different way? So we'll start Jenny, Dana, and Cassandra again.
We're gonna have to flip it at some point, because Cassandra gets the end where it's like, oh, ditto, 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 and one more thing, right? I am a fan of flipping the order, but not yet.
But she did slide me $20. So
oh, okay.
Where was your? Okay.
Venmo me, send me your Venmo. We'll make it happen. So I do have a framework that I use. It's really, really stupid simple. And it's, you draw a 2x2 on a piece of paper. And in the upper left, you put what? Below it, you put how. Then you put why, and you put who. So each of those boxes, and then the 3 core areas of knowing the customer. Who are they as an individual? What do they care about? How do they operate? What are their values? The things that matter to them as a human. What are their interests? Do you like vinegar-based barbecue? I'm from Kansas City. I don't. We're going to fight later, Dana, by the way. But all love.
Yes, love.
We love barbecue. But doing that exercise to really dig into kind of those fundamental key areas for, again, the person as an individual, the person in their respective role within their organization, and then the organization as a whole. So that what column being very kind of logical, practical, the measures of success, right? What are you working towards? What are you hoping to accomplish? What is the problem you're solving for? And moving your way kind of out through those key questions. If you do that, you know your customer, because you're going to know the big picture, hopes and dreams and aspirations at an individual level, whether they want to be a CCO one day, if you're working within customer success, or maybe they don't. Maybe they want to build their own business. But when you know those tokens of information, you get the opportunity to ask better questions, which I think all of us will agree is the money ticket, right? Being deeply obsessed with the problem, understanding the problem, but understanding the human that's working on solving the problem.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's cool. So I run a similar kind of play, Jenny, but I don't know that I've ever really named it, which is kind of strange, but I'll say that the only thing that I would add to that, I'll loop it back for a second to what Cassandra said when she was talking a little bit earlier, and just, the part about the why the heck does it matter to the customer anyway kind of thing. I usually tell my team, especially on the enterprise side, I'll say as I tell my 7-year-old, why the HE double hockey sticks doesn't matter to this customer and why, right? And I also loved how you talked about like aspirational sort of trends within the different stakeholders. I think that that's important. I also like to position it in, hey, how can I help you look great to your executive team, to your board? What does that look like? I know from a metric standpoint, but I don't want to assume. So let's talk the talk, which goes back to saying the hard stuff. But I'll also say I get a little bit sleuthy, right? So there's a little bit of a ninja play there to bring in, like I always say, use the data and let's use our tech. I was going to go there, Brad. So I have to shout out Gainsight Staircase AI, particularly using something like Gong and kind of strapping in that tech element and, kind of hearing and seeing what's happening. Also telemetry metrics. what the heck is the customer doing in the product? It matters. What's the story they're telling us? What features are they using? Which ones are they not? And then marrying that to all that amazing stuff that you were just chatting up is kind of where I think I would go in terms of just, kind of layering in an additional thought process around that.
I love that, sleuthy. I'm gonna want to use that a lot. The ninja and the sleuthy.
Yeah, I was like ninja. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Try not to laugh. I can't. I laughed.
Yeah, sleuthy in a positive way. I like it. Yeah, and I love the 4-boxer. That makes a lot of sense. And I think of it in a similar way, but dial it down to what I cheesily termed my formula for success in CS. As cheesy as it sounds, it's the playbook that I go back to because it's worked for a lot of CS teams as I coach them up. And so it's discovery leads to value, to impact, and to communicating. And so you've got to stay in that discovery mode longer. And I think that's something that came from my years and years of sales training. I definitely think that we could use more training on the CS side. I think that's where we're a big opportunity in customer success. And a lot of that sales training was just stay in discovery mode and keep asking the right questions and peel back that onion, as funny as I feel saying that. I don't know anybody that actually peels onions. I think you chop them, but the term, but the idea of like keep asking questions so that you get to the real value that you bring, and then dial it into that impact and make sure it's quantifiable down to time or money, and then communicating it back to the client and early and often, so that you keep going back to discovery. So when we communicate it back, it's like, no, what's important to me now has changed. So then you're back in discovery mode. And so Brad, you asked what tools I use. I try to keep it simple, and I'm always going back to that formula.
Mm-hmm.
I want to jump in. As I was like thinking about today, it was like sales discovery. Like we need to continue taking pages out of sales playbooks because, solution-based selling and all of that is like, what is the problem? How can I be obsessed with understanding their problem so that I'm sure that the solution that we're proposing is fully aligned? And so I think if we continue to keep kind of that mindset on as it comes to the post-initial sale side, then remember, like, what is the problem that we're here to help solve? But also, like, how do I understand the greater opportunities, the other problems to be solved within the organization, so that we're understanding how things thread in, thread out, priorities are shifting and emerging. And that only can happen, Cassandra, through that continuous discovery lens, right? Not taking just one thing as truth and gospel and running. We've all been there. That's where you get surprised to say like, oh, this really important thing shifted because these 3 things are now really important. So how are we making sure we're continuously understanding the problems and thinking about, really peeling back the layers of the problems and being a thought partner in solutioning?
Yeah, very good point. I think so often it's human nature, I feel like, for us to ask a question, get an answer, and move on and think we're good. It's definitely something that I had to train out of me. And I feel like that's great to work on with teams, is just, okay, you got your answer, now ask another question. And the client will feel, if you've got the right questions that you're asking, the client will feel like you care about them because of the questions you're asking about them.
And when it fails, you can always bring cheese because you.
I don't know if you noticed, Cassandra, but Dana came off mute for just a split second when you talked about peeling onions, because she was ready to confess that she in fact does. You could tell.
Brad, stop.
I know. You could tell. I do. But she was holding back.
That probably means you're a true chef, and I cook for my kids. We don't eat kids, actually.
Nice. So a follow-up question I have to that is like, have you ever so I'll share an experience and give you some time to think about your own. So the question is, have you ever uncovered, when you're going through a KYC, like know your customer, you're getting to know them, and you're doing what we just talked about here, you're asking further questions. Did you ever uncover a new use case or a new job that they were trying to use your product for, and then no one was trying to use it for that use case, or you found something new, right? You found something insightful that a customer was doing that you had to take back to your leadership team, or you had to meet cross-functionally. And I'll just share while you gather your thoughts here. I'll share a quick story. My very first position when I was director of customer success at the startup, we sold software that helped large construction and industry projects plan their construction. So it would tell you when, say, Boilermakers were supposed to come on the project, when pipe fitters, when iron workers, when carpenters. So it was to basically give you this algorithm. And our core ICP were engineers and superintendents and people who were in the technical space of making sure that large construction projects get going. So anyways, I'm sitting here and I'm talking with a sales guy at one of these large companies, and I was looking at his data and I'm like, why is he trying to pull reports from like this zip code and do this? It was a different, we'll say, data signature, right? He was just using the tool in a way that none of our other customers were. And I was on the phone and I asked him, I said, hey, like, what are you trying to accomplish? Because I'm looking at your data, and that's the question I like, is what are you trying to accomplish? Because rather than just me inferring from the data, oh, he's trying to do this, I just asked him, and he just told me, hey, I'm trying to use your tool, not actually to plan projects, but to sell as a sales tool for us to have like reports so that we can go in front of so that we show that we've done our research and we have this tool and it's going to help us, win bids. And like a light went off in my head. So I was like, oh, if he's doing this, then this is like really effective messaging that we can put out to all of our existing customers, right? On how to have their salespeople do the same thing. And long story short, it was like successful. We ended up expanding a lot more because we were able to show the other salespeople, hey, this person, if you use the tool like this, it's an effective strategy for trying to win bids. So that's kind of what I mean is like through an experience of getting to know your customer, did you find anything that was a surprise or a benefit that you had to share throughout an organization? And so we won't start with Jenny because I don't want her to rage quit the pod. So Dana or Cassandra, if you want to go first.
Cassandra, I still think you've got better glasses. So you go, girl. You go for it.
Yeah.
I was still trying to think of a good example. But
Okay, well, then I can roll. It's not sexy, I'll be honest, but this was a low-hanging fruit one that was a good one. So I had a customer, an international customer that's an aggregates, basically their aggregates company in construction as well, ironically, and was going out and essentially I was working for a company, building a success team and helping on the project delivery side as well. But we were essentially installing DIAs and internet connections inside of a ton of different sites at different locations.
Mm-hmm.
And in working with, the CTO is like, I know it sounds really silly, but believe it or not, at these sites underground, we still have to have a dedicated POTS line. POTS line, like POTS. Well, I'm sitting there, right? And because I had been in telephony and worked at CenturyLink for like 5 years in ops, I knew what POTS was and that it wasn't a flower pot, but like a plain telephone line. So long story short, he was looking for a solution just to throw a copper telephone line underground so that when they were going down to mine the aggregates, they were safe, they met regulatory requirements, all this stuff. And so we were already working with the same vendors at the time that would be essentially working to bring kind of a national kind of aggregate account to that particular organization. So went to them and said, hey, we need to have this solution thrown in. We kind of refabbed the deal and were able to deliver just a really inexpensive solution to the customer to be able to kind of check that box off the checklist. And then over time, that customer decided to work with us for our cybersecurity offering and partner deeper. So from a TCV standpoint, we ended up upselling like 27%. Customer was happy and all was great. So that's one example that I'll share.
Cool. Now, Jenny, you can jump into, or Cassandra.
Yeah.
If you want.
It's a little different, but similar. It's going to stay on kind of asking the bigger questions. And so, like, one of my favorite questions when I was running up close to renewals is you would say, if money were no object, what would our partnership and relationship look like? And just to get them thinking bigger, again, sharing kind of their master vision of where our engagement could scale. And this was a particular one that had a SaaS and professional service component. Traditionally worked in the organizational development teams, really like team alignment, team synergy, and all of that. And so I'd asked, this customer this question, and she just started going. Like, finally, the opportunity to tell someone my big hopes and dreams. And we realized that we could actually scale up the renewal to start to bring more of that to fruition. And we co-created the plan to secure the budget, right? So we really had that deep partnership. Opening up the lens of what she was hoping to create allowed us to scope a renewal that, yes, was obviously incremental revenue for our business. We all love that. But also, one, she got greater visibility within her organization. And two, it was a raving success because it was just this idea that had been kind of trapped and squashed. And we found a creative way to solve it. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't created the space to just say, hey, let's not work in the constructs of assuming that this and this, what is possible? What could we achieve together? And so really knowing that she, one, loved to think that way and play that way, but two, it's just we had built rapport over time, that I knew a lot about their organization. I knew a lot about her, and we were able to put together that plan quickly and get it done.
Nice. Anything you want to add, Cassandra?
Yeah, I love both your examples, and what I feel like I'm hearing is it's a win for us, it's a win for the client, it's a win all around. And I feel like that's the most fun in our job, is when it can be a win for everybody, and drive revenue. I think the example that came to mind was when I was working with a CSM and doing a shadow call with one of our clients, and they were a biomed tech client that had a device, and were coming to us for some training for a whole new expansion division that they were training and starting to use our product. And with permission from the rep, I stepped in because I sometimes shadow calls, as you all know, is you want to just stay quiet, and sometimes they are okay with you partnering with them, which is my favorite, when you can really have that relationship that it's good enough that you can both work with the client really well. And so they were asking for some training, and I said, can you go back to your seasoned sales reps and ask them, what have you used our platform for? The sales reps would use it for different targets, finding new hospitals, new physicians to target, and new patients. And can you go back to your seasoned reps and ask them where they've had success and what they wish they knew now, when they started with us years ago? And then in doing that, we created trainings based off of what they told us, and short little 3 to 5 minute podcasts or webinars that they could use as they were driving around in their car and listen to. And we figured out a bunch of different use cases that they were uncovering targets by using our platform in different ways, like looking for not only physicians that were prescribing competitors, but where the patients were going that were getting those competitor subscriptions, et cetera. So it was fun. And I remember the CSM turning to me and he goes, you just got my value statement and my impact statement right there, and I'm going to figure out how to quantify that. And it was like, it's as easy as asking the right question in the right moment, but making sure that you keep diving deeper and ask that question.
Nice. So quick, almost like fire round. I'm just curious. When I said that, Dan's eyes were like, oh, fire round. What is this new segment? Fire round. What do you think's, when getting to know your customer, if you've worked in different segments of CS, what do you think is the hardest segment? Like, for example, digital, SMB, mid-market, enterprise, strategic. If you've worked in a variety of those, like, is there any segment, or we'll open it up to industry too, you might have worked in, where it's hard to get to know customers, and then just why do you think that is? So let's see, Dana, I think it's your turn to go first, and then we'll go Jenny, and then Cassandra. It's always last because she supposedly $20, which she didn't, but
fair. So this is what I think. I think enterprise is usually the easiest to get to know because they're used to those relationships. They have a ton of relationships with vendors. They're used to the kind of the razzle dazzle that happens when you're trying to get to know someone. Most of the time, if you're a C-level or VP level leader, you're used to being engaged with, you're used to having the 25 different message attempts on LinkedIn for somebody selling something, all those things. But I would say the thing about it that's interesting when I think about it from a segment standpoint is I think from a digital enablement standpoint, or these, that long Pareto curve, that long tail of customers, I think we've been at least marginally successful at creating digital tools that are helping us to somewhat think through how to know our customer based on trends, what they're doing, what they're not, how they're responding to, however we feel about CSAT. That's a whole nother can of worms for me, as most of you probably know. But all of that being said, we have those mechanisms in place. And I think that once you tailor that to your business, that we can get that digital piece and get to know our customers that way pretty well through modality. Where it gets sticky is that middle, I always talk about that, the cream and the Oreo, right? But it's literally that mid tier. And I think I would argue that that's the most important from a prospect. And to go to your subject matter expertise here, Cassandra, if I may, just going back to how we prospect, the discovery piece, that's when that discovery piece, in my experience, is so super important because it is ripe and very fertile for cross-sell and upsell potential. And it's not that I don't have my enterprise. I love my enterprise, for all the reasons, and the same thing with digital, but that's my wrap there. That's what I think.
Mm. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, I think it's just like the methodologies by which you know your customer shift a little bit. So when I think about like SMB, I think can be tricky just because, again, lower touch, usually enabling more of digital type touches. And so my experience, I led large customer success orgs with all SMB, so know from experience, but this is really important to partner with marketing and research and understand the different personas. So like the end users, who are they? What are their roles? What do they care about? And then be able to leverage kind of that higher level insight of saying, okay, so we worked in aftermarket automotive marketing software. So what do the technicians care about? Like speed, efficiency, hate technology, just want to do their work, get under a car, fix it, and be done. Right. So we had to think about everything there. When you're on the phone with them, you don't get an opportunity to get to know them. So what are the key things that we need to know? How do we build rapport and relationships? That looks a lot different than an owner who's caring about business performance, right? It's operationalizing efficiencies, retention business, right? So I think it really is just understanding within any given segment what we keep talking about. What do they care about? What's most important for them to get their jobs done, get them done well, but also be able to continue growing and expanding into where they want to be within their own careers and orgs. I think that still holds true no matter what segment you're in.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I see what you're saying, Dana, about how enterprise is used to us and used to that partnership oftentimes. That makes a lot of sense. But I think the hardest in my career are the ones that just don't see the value in the partnership because we haven't been able to prove it. So whatever segment they're in, it's getting that opportunity, that at bat. I remember years ago, I was working with a veterinary hospital, and it was, I would do a 2-day program, and one full day was sitting in that discovery mode of figuring out what they were working on, what their struggles were. And I would build a program, a 2-year program around that. So all sorts of DISC training, EQ training, how to wow your clients, and then also medical training, and just build around their entire hospital practice. But I had to get them there first. So I would bring one champion client, one growth client, and then one whale. And I remember trying to connect with my whale, and he was a practice owner that would not see any representatives, me, my competitors, no one. And so I was trying to figure out, like we're talking about know your customer, I was trying to figure out, I had to get to know him to get him there. And so it was, I did this 2-day program at Disneyland, and then sent their families to Disneyland while we were meeting. And so I just went to to his hospital and asked his team, how old are his kids and what are their favorite Disney characters? And then went and got towels and water bottles and all the things for those specific kids, and then put it in a box with my invitation to the program. And it got a call within a half an hour that was the most creative thing he's ever seen. And that, of course, he would go to our 2-day program, and where I really got to know him and his business, and then secured that business for the rest of my tenure at that company. But I had to get to know him to be able to get to know his business. And so I would consider him an enterprise, but whether you segment it one way or the other, it's whoever's willing to partner with you, and you got to show them the value.
Yeah, no, I like that story. It reminded me of when I applied for a job, and I bought 2 dozen donuts, and I taped my resume on the underside of the hood because this guy was like not responding, and I really wanted to work there. And he responded the next day. He's like, I've never seen anything so creative. He's like, you'll get an interview. And then he ghosted me. But at least he enjoyed the donuts.
Oh, I love that, though. That is so creative.
I know. So, but yeah, no, I mean, being creative is kind of fun. So something I wanted to follow up on, Jenny brought up where she talks about, let's talk about cross-functional stuff. So it's kind of a challenge, especially when you work in big companies, where I don't know if the three of you ever had this experience, but I think it's fairly common. There's all of this customer data that, say, sales team has their favorite tool, they put it in, or I don't know if you've ever had CS where they have their tool. So like there's already some silos there. So sales has theirs and CS has theirs, and maybe product has their favorite tool. And so we all have, views on and data on what the customer likes, what they enjoy, what are their goals and aspirations, right? What are they trying to achieve? What do you think first off, do you have experience doing that? And then how do we build something, or how do we have a more unified know your customer type view in companies where, say, someone's sitting back right now and they're listening to this conversation like, well, this sounds like a really good idea, but how do I break down these silos in order to get a more complete 100 or 360 view? So everyone's shaking their head, so that means Cassandra goes first, and then Jenny.
Yeah, I'll take the first this time.
Okay.
I think dialing back to that formula I was talking about earlier, and agreed, Josh. Woohoo, Jenny.
Jenny's got a fan.
I've mostly worked in Salesforce, and I love having the value and impact statements right there front and center on the customer's page so that everybody can see it and then communicate it. And so when we think about the customer lifecycle journey, I want sales to be capturing the client goals throughout the sales process. And I want that to be a big discussion throughout the transition from sales to CS for the client. And constantly going back and realigning on goals, and they've got to be documented right there. So I like when there's a spot, right? If CS and sales teams are working in the same CRM, when there's a spot right there, just here's the value we bring, here's the quantifiable impact it makes for them. And then everybody that interacts with that client communicates that back to them, whether if it's a small check-in email, it's, hey, last time we talked, we saved you 8 hours a week. How has that been lately? Have we saved you more or less? How does that transition into dollars? Have you been able to do something else where you're making money, et cetera, to QBRs, et cetera. But at every interaction, we should be reminding our clients of that value we bring. And the only way that I think we're going to do it is if it's right there in everybody's face to remind them to do it. So I like having it there.
You actually had salespeople that put in their notes?
Guilty as charged myself.
Jab. Yeah, that's right. We're jabbing. We're jabbing here. That's Friday.
That's hard.
Happy Valentine's Day, salespeople. Put in your notes. There, I said it.
Yeah, true. Well, and one of my best CSMs, he was the best, but that was the one downfall. And I understand too. Sometimes we run really fast, but yes, yeah. Documenting.
Nice. Awesome. Who did I say goes second? I don't even know. I think Jenny. All right. Jenny had a fan, so you can go next.
No, it's a great topic. I've worked in organizations smaller where the gongs of the world are a little out of budget, right? Especially when you're early stage, maybe haven't raised that Series B, Series C yet. And so we've implemented tools like Josh just said hi, so I'm going to plug him, Update AI, who I partner with often, where it captures all of the insights from those pre-sales all the way through post-sales. And so you do have a centralized hub for what does the customer care about, what are their goals, what are their needs, and what are they hoping to accomplish, and then stakeholder profiles. And so to Cassandra's point, like having a centralized hub where this information lives, and especially making it easier to get the information. We're in the age of AI, like we don't have to do as much manual work. There are tools out there that will just pull what's important and make it easy for us to access. I think is super important. And if you're not at a point to invest in a tool like Gong Staircase, Gainsight, Update AI, whatever, still running Google Docs. You can still create account plans to success plans, but really having stakeholder profiles. Who are they? What do they care about? They have 2 kids and they like to vacation in the Florida Keys. That's me, by the way. Now you know me. But really just a place to anchor those truths, helps in any kind of account transition moments, new CSMs coming in, just to say, hey, Jenny left me some notes. I hear you love to go to the Keys. Tell me more about Marathon. You've got that personal thing to zhuzh it up. But really just helps, broker that awkward transition moment that can happen. So I ranted a little bit, but I think the tools that we have access to are awesome, critical, and really important to have all of this information in.
Rant accepted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, so I couldn't agree more with both of these ladies. But I do think that, we know our customers best from an internal collaboration perspective by getting to know each other. And one way I like to set up when I'm trying to get to know a peer in a boardroom or, trying to figure out how to really set up kind of that collaborative muscle in the beginning when CS is so young in an org or whatever it may be is, hey, so what are you trying to accomplish, Mr. or Mrs. Leader? That's fantastic. How do we work together to be able to strive that through the lens of the customer? So like what that looks like in real life would be, Jenny, you've chatted about like bringing in and giving marketing some love. Since it's V-Day, we'll talk about love. And, I love marketing people in general. But I think saying to a marketing person, hey, we can help you with your inbound by creating valuable customers that love to refer. And that's going to help, create raving fans that transcend and proliferate our brand and all those fun things. And so just really being real with people across the room and saying, hey, how do we work together for the good of the customer? And I also really love when you're transitioning from there's a play that I like to play called, just basically a green report or a green form. You can do it in Monday.com. If you've got a small budget, it's really easy, but basically it's kind of like an all engines go thing. Everybody says, hey, look, we're good for the good of the customer, and here's the why. And everybody signed off, and we know the customer can be kind of successful at that onboarding, right at the onboarding phase of the life cycle journey. So those are a couple thoughts that I would have kind of on the cusp of that.
Nice. Yeah, no, those are all good points. And I'm glad, Dana, you said you agree with both the ladies and not me, because it makes me sad.
I knew you were going to say that, Brad. I knew you were going to say that.
It's okay. It's all right. CS is still my Valentine, even if the panel isn't. All right. So question though, that came up while I was sitting here listening to you. On previous shows, this has come up before about like who owns the customer. So you have marketing, you have sales, you have customer success. So you have all of like everybody's hand is in the customer cookie jar, right? So let's talk, I guess, tactically here, since we all have a CS background, because we're Team CS, and that's who we are. We want us to win, and those who are closest to the customers, we want our customers to win too. But anyways, so how do we avoid, like, we had one company that would send 4 different onboarding emails because like marketing sent their own, sales sent their own, CS sent their own. Not the best experience. It's all, siloed, and the customer, I'm sure, is thoroughly confused. So the question is, like, how do we get our customers to care about, we'll say, our relationship as a customer success manager or a CS professional when they have a relationship maybe with sales already, or maybe with an executive or team? Like, how do we build those relationships where you come in, you got hired, it's a new position, you don't know anybody? How are you building those relationships where you can have a seat at the customer table and get to know them? And we'll start with Cassandra, because I think she was the first one to go.
I think it dials back down to the internal relationships every time. It obviously is different for different products and for different companies, but I've seen it work best in my experiences when CS is really that day-to-day partner with the client, and driving that value consistently and uncovering the opportunities. But as soon as those opportunities turn to a financial discussion, bringing sales back in. And you've got to have that really tight bond with your AE or AM or whoever it is, with your sales team. And like you mentioned with the marketing team, you've got to all be on the same page within the client facing.
What if the salesperson's an idiot? I'm joking.
I feel like there's all these sales punches today.
No, I love salespeople. That they're all great, but it's just, I'm just thinking about the time someone fell asleep on a call and we could hear them snoring. But side tangent.
Oh, okay, I see where you're coming from, because I remember I come from sales. It's not. I don't feel like it's bad.
Yeah, no, I'm bringing on my salesperson and he's asleep.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, but I guess it's tongue in cheek, but seriousness, like, I think that's why a lot of people don't get on some of the calls. Like, we've all been on calls where there's like 100 people on there and only one person does the speaking and then everyone else chilling. But like, I feel like that can be hard, right? Because you have to have that internal trust. Like, everyone has to be confident in their job,
Agreed. Well, and I want to hear more about that. Did you wake them up, or just what'd you do?
No, so the host of the Zoom meeting was the customer. So they're like, I'm just gonna go ahead and mute. And the thing is, you don't try to run from it or explain it. You just embrace and make a joke out of it. And it's just like, oh, I'm sure he was up late last night, getting that high score on, whatever game he's playing.
Or you never know. Try to get.
Candy Crush doesn't play itself,
Maybe they were up with sick kids or something, and try to always give someone the benefit of the doubt. But which
was funny, because it then turns into like one of those political situations, like, oh, don't tell so and so that I fell asleep, and it's like, bro, it's gonna get out. The customer is gonna make a joke that you just fell asleep. So
yeah, we have screenshots. So
yeah, no, but I think that's been a challenge. Places I think where there's a lot of times, and you hear about that, like when people leave the call and people badmouth people, where there's like, oh, that solution engineer is not our best one or whatever. And it seems like that's kind of a roadblock for trying to know your customer if you kind of have reservations of bringing on the right people at the right moments, right? So anyways, I interrupted you.
No, it was a good story to hear.
Yeah.
I think in that case, then you've got an internal issue that needs dialing into also. And I love like DISC or going through EQ training or something. You've got some internal training that needs to happen. And if anybody's bad mouthing to the client, I think they might feel like they're trying to bridge that relationship with the client. But in my mind, it just ends up going south from there. So you've got to be positive about your team, even if they fall asleep. Maybe.
Wow. It really is. There's a lot of love getting spread right here. That's cool. All right, Jenny or Dana, what do you think?
I heard a couple of different pieces. One was like who owns the customer. I think we could have, and you probably have had a whole hour long on this topic. So I really think a lot of our purpose in customer success, which lots of people talk about, what is our purpose these days, right? Do we own commercial responsibilities? Do we not? Blah, blah, blah. But I really think we are the trust hub, and that's internally and externally. And so everything that we're talking about is to really make sure that we insulate and drive trust, and trust comes through value delivery, value realization, knowing the customer, right? But all of the different kind of components of a strategic trusting relationship where you can, but even using different, modalities like emails and marketing, different kind of access points to, it's still a trust building exercise. And so if we understand that there is a value exchange happening, the customer is trusting in us, we are delivering value to them, they are realizing said value, we are all pieces in the ecosystem. Now, I know I'm like rainbows, butterflies, and hearts on Valentine's Day, and that's not the reality in most cases. But I also think that that's a really great opportunity, to Cassandra's point, to look at, okay, where are the barriers internally? Is it misaligned compensation plans? Is it just a lack of understanding? Do we get to actually do a know thy customer internally, so the teams can understand, the things that we are hearing and learning, and maybe the positioning and framing that they're coming from. So I really do think we are the trust hub, and that allows us to retain, identify opportunities to expand revenue, expand relationships, know when to pull in a solutions engineer, know when to pull in an AE, things of that nature. Right. And those relationships all have to be foundationally built on trust.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that, with anything anyone said here, even you, Brad.
I thought you were going to go for a repeat there.
But so I've heard one thing that I love is the whole, who owns the customer stuff. And I think it's a really good question, because I think we're doing it wrong with the whole customer success owns the customer. And I'm not going to get on my soapbox, I promise, but I'm just going to say that customer success has, there's a lot of customer success leaders that I think, and I love, I've learned and grow with everyone in our community, but I think we've all, including me, have made the mistake of saying we're going to own the relationship. Well, that's fine, except when economy isn't great and, customers are leaving for all sorts of reasons that may or may not be necessarily relevant to things within your scope of control. It's customer success that gets laid off. It's customer success that no longer is there to help build all those wonderful, trusting foundational models and relationships and all the things. So I think to kind of remedy that, what we have to do as leaders, I think it'd be really cool. One thing I've been trying to figure out and work through and run is, we have to align around how we share the customer, in ownership. And it goes back to that shared OKR mentality of, what do we own together for the good of the customer across marketing, sales, support, all the way down, everybody here, finance, all the things, and align for that ownership of the customer, instead of saying, oh, we got a 91% customer retention. We know we've got churn, and only 91% of our customers are actually staying. So yep, CS is out because clearly they're not doing anything. So anyway, that's what I would say. I love the question though. It's good stuff.
Yeah. No, I think it's just always interesting because I feel like there's like all of life is trade-offs. So when we had CS was back in the day, hey, we want customers to be, happy and successful and get the results. They didn't have as much, we'll say, commercial responsibilities. You're worried about building the relationship, but then now it's like if you basically have been turned into an AM, you're an account manager, and you're always reaching out, talking about commercial things or trying to line up a commercial conversation, right? You could potentially start to get ignored, right? So I think that's one of the challenges that I've seen, that as CSMs have taken on more commercial responsibilities, either they don't take on commercial responsibilities because maybe technical founders think my product's so amazing it'll just sell itself, it'll just NPS itself, it's so amazing it'll just like renew itself, and then they, as I tell people, the true cost, you find out the true cost of customer success when you don't have it anymore, right? And there have been companies that have flirted with that, right? Where they're like, oh, if I get rid of my CS team, it'll all be okay, and I have my projections, but it turns out it's not okay. That most of the time, unless you're the very top offering, most of the products and services have to be sold, and they have to be nurtured. So all in all, the know your customer, I think, topic is really a great opportunity for us to continue to collaborate with everyone cross-functionally, because I feel like all the time you see in the news when companies, whether they're having layoffs of people in their organization or they're changing their product a lot, I always wonder, I wonder what the customer data was behind that, right? Or what the decision was from how customers would perceive that, right? Because we're all customers too. Like, we all buy products and services. So it continues to be, I think, an interesting topic, and you ladies made some really great points, but we are right here at the very end. So let's do some sign-offs where we'll just go around and where can people connect with you, and then anything you want to pitch. And then if you want to wish me a happy Valentine's Day too, that's fine.
What's the order? We'll go back to the original order. Well, happy Valentine's Day, Brad, and to everyone
thanks.
listening. You can find me on LinkedIn, per usual. I'm sure that's most of us. Check out Update AI. We love to have people check it out. You can reach out to me directly if you're curious. And if you're interested in any kind of coaching or really deep dive into knowing your customer, I love to do that kind of work. I would love the opportunity to have a discussion with you, and hopefully these other lovely ladies would come as well. Imagine getting the three of us together and doing an exercise like that. Might have a service brew in here, girls. But thank you. It was great.
So yeah, find me on LinkedIn. Always excited to talk and learn and grow. And if you are interested in positive disruption and SaaS, you can always check out my podcast as well on Spotify. And happy Valentine's Day, Brad.
Thanks,
I was checking out your podcast yesterday. I love it. And I love your idea, Jenny. Let's team up. And happy Valentine's Day, all. You can find me on LinkedIn, and if anybody is looking to level up their CSM team and have a coach come in and just really dial it down to the basics, I'd be excited to partner with you and do it alongside you.
Awesome. Well, ladies, happy Valentine's Day to you. May you have something sweet to share today, and have a great weekend, everybody. Make sure you make a deposit in a relationship bank today. Do something nice for somebody. And we will see you next week on episode 24, which I don't know the topic, but if I did, I'd share it. but that's what Mel and I probably should talk about before. But anyways, thanks, ladies, for coming on. And everyone, have a great weekend. Happy Valentine's Day, all. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.